Just at noon, Vice President Kamala Harris is on her way to Monterey Park, California today to meet with the community and mourn the victims of the weekend mass shooting that left 11 people dead. Some of the survivors gathered Tuesday night for the first time since the shooting at the Monterey Park dance studio. The survivors remembered the victims ranging in age from 57 to 76 years old. Adam Yamaguchi has the latest on the shooting in our top story at noon.
All of us here believe in safe places to raise our children.
Overnight, hundreds gathered at Monterey Park City Hall for a vigil, with some of the survivors reuniting for the first time since the massacre.
We saw each other, we give a hug, we shake a hand.
65-year-old Daniel Shu says he's lucky to have survived, as he witnessed his friends die in front of him from the hail of gunfire.
How has this affected you personally?
Memory, bad memory won't go away. When I close my eye, the scene keep coming back. Shooting, people running, blooding.
At the Star Dance Studio, investigators recovered 42 empty shell casings and continue to search for clues as to why the 72-year-old attacker shot up a ballroom dance hall he frequented before fleeing the scene and later died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in his van.
We hope to find a motive, but it's the one question we may never have an absolute for.
All 11 victims have now been identified. Among the dead are Star Dance's beloved manager, Ming Ma, Diana Tom, a grandmother whose family said loved to dance, and Mei Mei Nan, her loved one saying her warm smile and kindness was contagious. The Asian American community they called home is in shock, but remains resilient.
For me, it's the sacred place.
Tristan Cabral grew up in Monterey Park, emigrating at a young age from the Philippines with his family. This neighborhood is special because Monterey Park has been a haven of acceptance for Asian immigrants like his family.
The other kids understood what it was like to live with immigrants, that they understood what it was like to take different types of food to school, and there wasn't this like, oh, that's weird.
Cabral says his love for his hometown has only grown since the weekend's tragedy.
Do these streets look, feel any different to you?
It feels more treasured. It feels more precious.
As investigators continue to look into whether the suspect knew the victims, a former tenant told our LA station KCBS KCAL that he knew, quote, this thing would happen sooner or later. He also said that the suspect would often complain about those who are not nice to him at the studio. Adam Yamaguchi, CBS News, Monterey Park, California.
Two people, including a 13-year-old, died Tuesday night after a car crash in Wexford County's Antioch Township. State police say the crash happened on M115 near Mesick last night around 8. Troopers say the driver of the car, Jordan Griffin, drove onto the shoulder of the road and went airborne, setting his car rolling over and hitting a tree. The passenger, 13-year-old Chase Lobeck, was also killed in the crash. In this update, the Mason County Sheriff's Office says the driver of a pickup truck involved in a crash Tuesday has died. Deputies say Brian Elzinga from Grand Rapids died from his injuries Tuesday night. The two-vehicle crash happened on US 31 just north of US 10 around 7:30 Tuesday morning. The pickup truck lost control and spun out into a semi that was heading the other direction. The driver of the semi was not hurt. New at noon, the Newaygo County Sheriff's Office says a school bus was involved in a hit-and-run crash on Tuesday. Deputies say it happened at the intersection of West 5 Mile Road and North Mundy Avenue in Lincoln Township a little after 4 p.m. yesterday. They say an SUV blew a stop sign and T-boned a White Cloud public school bus. The sheriff says the driver of the SUV left the crash scene, but they were able to track them down. A White Cloud woman was arrested for failure to stop at the crash and drunk driving. No one on the school bus was hurt. We're taking a live look over Mackinac City this afternoon on our Doppler 9 and 10 Skycam. Snow not coming down in the straits right now, but a few flakes could fly later today. As that snow moves out, temperatures begin to cool down over the next 2 days. Doppler 9 and 10 meteorologist Michael Stevens has a look at your forecast in First Weather at noon. Michael, things about to get chilly.
Yeah, this is what we've been talking about the last several weeks, David, is the very warm temperatures that we have seen all been because of the warmer air from the Pacific just kind of hanging out for much of northern Michigan. Through much of January, we've been well above average. But this system is going to start to kind of set in motion more winter-like weather, whether it's systems, but also much colder air as we head into February. And we'll show you that here in a little bit. But notice this system continuing to kind of move northeast through much of Indiana as well as Ohio, impacting the heaviest of the snow downstate. For us here in northern Michigan, maybe an inch or two, maybe 3 to 6 closer to Alpena and Alcona counties. But once you get inland and back towards Lake Michigan, yeah, much lighter snow and even just a few flakes, a trace for areas of the eastern European Straits through today. Temperatures right now still in the upper 20s to even a few low 30s out there, mid 30 in Alpena. But again, with that upper 20s, low 30s, still kind of more of a wet, heavy snow. Could be a little slick out there, even with a coating of snow on some roadways for you. And those wind speeds, they continue to be out of the east-northeast at about 5 to 15 miles per hour for you. Now, visibility-wise, we do have a little bit of reduced visibility with that snow. About 2 miles visibility in Cadillac, Big Rapids, Mount Pleasant, 1 mile visibility there in Ludington, as well as Oscoda. But for the rest of today, cloudy, a little bit of snow. Again, not a ton by any means. Areas closer to Lake Huron, that is where they'll see the heavy snow for our viewing area. But Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, not much going on, just a little bit cooler. Teens and 20s for your Thursday, mid-20s to low 30s Friday, but teens and 20s for Saturday. Sets us up for much cooler temperatures by February, which we'll detail coming up in that full forecast.
In a policy reversal, the U.S. has agreed to send M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine, possibly opening the door for other countries to send tanks of their own. The president's decision is a change in policy for the White House, which had previously said those Abrams tanks were too advanced to be effectively used in Ukraine. But the U.S. announced today they will send 31 tanks to Ukraine. It comes after a bipartisan group of senators met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. They were told the tanks are essential to defeating a Russian counteroffensive that appears to be in the works.
The offensive that the Russians will bring, they're massing their troops and supplies and reinforcements right now, is so imminent that we need to provide these tanks.
The decision follows intense negotiations last week with NATO allies over the supply of those tanks. Germany initially held out, but will now follow suit and begin shipping Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. The documents marked classified found in the Indiana home of former Vice President Mike Pence have been turned over to the FBI. Lawyers for Pence say they searched his Indiana home out of an abundance of caution. According to a letter from Pence's lawyer, a small number of documents marked classified were found at the former VP's home last week and were put in a safe location until FBI agents came to pick them up. The discovery comes after Pence assured multiple journalists earlier this month he'd been more thorough when leaving the White House. This is Pence earlier this month.
Our staff reviewed all of the materials in our office and in our residence to ensure that there were no classified materials that left the White House or remained in our possession.
Now lawmakers are raising broader questions on Capitol Hill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says members are working on bipartisan legislation dealing with classified documents. An Ogemaw County man got the surprise of a lifetime when he found out he won more than $1 million on the Michigan lottery. The 62-year-old, who is remaining anonymous, did not know he won until he went back to the gas station he bought the ticket at. That's when the clerk told him to check his ticket because they'd sold a big winner. The man then scanned this ticket for the Lotto 47 jackpot and saw that he won $1.15 million. He bought the ticket at the GP gas station in Rose City. The huge prize has been claimed, and the man plans to pay some bills, complete home renovations, and invest with his winnings. Cleanup is underway today in communities near Houston after powerful storms ripped through the area. We'll take you to some of the hardest hit areas coming up at noon.
And outside right now, we continue to see a little bit of snow for the lower peninsula. Could give us a few slick spots out there heading towards this evening. But going into tomorrow, much quieter weather, but much cooler temperatures. All those details coming up right after the break. And welcome back, everyone. Taking a live look right now over Frankfurt, where we continue see those cloudy skies for you. Maybe a flake or two passing through, but Frankfort, one of those spots that we'll see very little snow. Now let's take you into the future with the jet stream and show you what we've been kind of talking about for the last few weeks. Yes, we have been seeing very warm air, but now since the atmospheric rivers have broken down over on the west coast, that's cutting off our mild air. And that's coming to an end here in January, which is opening the door for a very cold February. So the next two systems that we have continues to drag down that polar jet. And with the polar jet, that's where the kind of cap of that cold air sits. And for the longest time through January, it sat all the way north into Canada. And now it's going to continue to sink farther south, which means much colder air impacting northern Michigan, which means we'll start seeing that ice formation on the big lakes, but we also could start seeing a little more snow, especially when it comes to lake effect snow. So going into Saturday, that colder air kind of leveling out before we start seeing the next kind of wave of cold air going into next week. And you'll see as soon as we get into February, things start to drag farther south, and even this little blip of even colder air over Hudson Bay will start to kind of push its way to the south, giving us much cooler air. So yes, February is looking to be much colder for northern Michigan than January was, but January's been extremely warm. We have been way above average. So the jet stream kind of correcting itself after what has been a mild January. We will now start seeing those temperatures below average after spending most of January, if not all of January, well above average. So 28 tomorrow in Traverse City, where average for this time of year is 29, 32 Friday, 22 Saturday, 21 Sunday, 17 Monday, 19 on Tuesday, 22 by Wednesday. So yeah, much cooler temperatures. Right now, dealing with a little bit of snow. If you are heading downstate, expect delays because they are going to see much more snow, about 3 to 6 inches, maybe some isolated higher amounts than that downstate. For us, trace to an inch in some locations, maybe 2 inches at most, especially in the central lower. Areas closer to Lake Huron shoreline, Alcona as well as Alpena counties, they could be seeing 3 to 6 by tonight. Mount Pleasant right now, 30 degrees in Prudenville, while you have 30 for your high so far after a low of 28. But Mount Pleasant also around 31, McBain at 30 with northeast winds currently at about 3 miles per hour. So future view, put this into motion. There's that snow, and notice heaviest of which in our area is over towards the Lake Huron shoreline, because this is pinwheeling and then heads out to the northeast heading into tonight. So not a ton of snow, but that little bit of snow that you do receive in spots could be enough to give you some slick roads. Keep that in mind for this evening commute. Now going into tomorrow, we have north-northwest winds. That's ushering in much cooler air. Could have some peaks of sunshine in spots of northern Michigan, but not a ton of sun. Could have some clear skies Thursday night into Friday morning, and that might give us some cooler temperatures to start Friday morning off with. But this next system, kind of a clipper, starts rolling its way in Friday, and that will start ushering in even cooler air going into the weekend. So today, going to be looking at the low 30s for the UP and tip of the mitt. Some isolated flakes. East winds right around 5 to 10 for you. Northern lower, low 30s, light snow. East-northeast winds 5 to 15. Once you get in the central lower, more of a moderate snow at times for you, as you'll have low 30s to mid 30s and northeast winds at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Now tonight, going to be looking at your temperatures, low teens to low 20s for the UP and tip of the mitt. A few flurries for you heading into tomorrow morning. Northern lower, low 20s to mid 20s. A few isolated flakes, northwest winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. But those winds will definitely start adding a chill to the air. Single digits and teens for your feels-like temperatures heading into tomorrow morning. So your Doppler 910 7-day forecast, I'm going to be looking at your temperatures hanging around the upper 20s, mid 30s for today. Tomorrow, going to be in the upper teens to upper 20s, maybe a touch of lake effect in spots. Friday, going to have some afternoon, evening snow, mid 20s to low 30s. And then the weekend, teens and 20s with a few isolated flakes as we head towards February.
Tonight, you can watch the State of the State address live with Northern Michigan's news leader. Governor Whitmer will be speaking about the progress Michigan has made and what the state hopes to accomplish in the year ahead. The State of the State airs live on our sister station, Local 32, and on the free View It app tonight starting at 7 p.m. We'll break down the governor's plan and get reaction from both sides of the aisle when you join us tonight at 10 and 11. Thousands of people are still without power after powerful storms hit communities near Houston, Texas. The latest on the cleanup effort next at noon. Powerful storms ripped through communities near Houston on Tuesday, damaging homes and businesses and causing one senior center to evacuate. Police say no one has died from the storms so far, but more than 40,000 Texans are still without power. Jared Hill has more details from the communities hit the hardest.
A couple in Texas says they feel blessed to be alive after diving with their dogs into a ditch to escape an apparent tornado near the Louisiana line. Powerful tornadoes left a path of destruction in multiple counties near Houston, Texas, Tuesday, ripping the roofs off of homes and businesses and knocking down trees and power lines.
Like chaos and very loud. The metal was crashing, the glass was breaking out. It was extremely loud.
Seniors at this assisted living center in Deer Park had to evacuate after the building was damaged.
As of right now, we have no injuries that we're aware of from the tornado or any casualties.
Volunteers came to the rescue, moving dozens of the animals from this now uninhabitable shelter in Pasadena, Texas. In other parts of the state, strong winds and heavy rain brought on flooding.
The semis were just blowing a lot of raindrops on me, so it was just hazardous for me.
Meanwhile, snow fell in northern Texas and neighboring Oklahoma.
Hopefully it snows a little bit more so we can keep going.
While snow has already blanketed parts of the upper northeast this week, this storm system could bring a dusting to the otherwise snowless New York City starting today. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
The new trends in how Americans are working to meet their fitness goals. Coming up. It's been a rough start to the day on Wall Street. As we take a live look at midday trading, the Dow down 212 points this afternoon to 33,519. The Nasdaq's down 138 and the S&P 500 slipping 34. Union Pacific reported another year of record earnings on Tuesday. The company's net income for the year rose to $7 billion. That is up $500 million or 7% from the previous record profit it posted for 2021. Union Pacific was among the major freight railroad companies that successfully fought off union demands for paid sick days for workers during a contentious labor negotiation in 2022. America's largest banks are working to compete with Apple and PayPal. 7 major banks, including Bank of America, Truist, and Wells Fargo, are working with Early Warning Services, the company that runs Zelle, the Zelle electronic payment service. The new electronic wallet, which will operate separately from Zelle, would allow people to make purchases online. Right now, Zelle primarily allows transfers of funds between people who know each other. The digital wallet is an attempt to regain banks' control of purchases currently being made using Apple Pay and similar services. The new digital wallet is set to launch later this year. The Food and Drug Administration is weighing in on allowable amounts of lead in baby food. Lead, along with arsenic and mercury, are in the World Health Organization's top 10 chemicals of concern for infants and children. New draft guidance by the FDA suggests a limit of 20 parts per billion or less of lead in single ingredient root vegetables and dry cereals. Because lead occurs naturally in soil, it can't be avoided completely in plants, but the FDA suggests a lower limit of 10 parts per billion on baby food custards, fruit meats, and food blends. Critics say the new guidance is not enough. Bill Gates is getting into the cow feed business. The billionaire announced he is investing in Rumen 8. That's an Australian startup developing a special feed that could reduce methane emissions. Nearly 1/3 of global methane emissions come from livestock, but Rumen 8 hopes to reduce those numbers by producing an additive for feed with seaweed. Studies have shown that adding seaweed to feed can significantly cut down those emissions. Rumen 8 says lab trials have shown its feed can reduce up to 95% of methane emissions. The company hopes to have small amounts of food available by the end of this year. Getting into better shape is the most popular New Year's resolution, but the new year is also a chance to see how fitness trends are changing. Bradley Blackburn tells us the new ways Americans are reaching their fitness goals.
Many Americans, Vanessa Hidary, bought high-tech home gym equipment during the pandemic, but now you'll find her here.
A little lower.
Lifting and training at X93 Fitness in New York with one-on-one coaching in person.
It's more motivating than doing it at home. You see other people doing it. You have someone pushing you.
She's not alone. A new survey from the American College of Sports Medicine tracks changes in fitness trends. Strength training with free weights, personal training, and functional fitness are all in the top 10 for 2023. Online training plummeted after topping the list in 2021.
What we're seeing is an extraordinary number of people returning to the gym, much higher than what was expected in any other year that wasn't influenced by the pandemic. So we're starting to see people shift, going back to kind of like group exercise, where they're having that kind of face-to-face interaction.
Why change something that don't need fixing?
Trainer Chris Fernandez says he's been flooded with calls from people who want his back-to-basics approach.
We're going to kick it back.
He uses strength training that studies show can not only build muscle, but boost long-term health.
Free weights is one of the best ways to lose weight as well as get toned up and build muscle definition.
One piece of tech is expected to stick around. Wearable fitness trackers are the survey's #1 trend for 2023, but the results only come with hard work.
Now I'm doing things I thought I would never do.
Ready for more change in the new year
Your heels stay on the floor
with old school fitness. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Snow chances for a lot of us today, Michael, but that snow going to be heavier the further south you go in the lower peninsula.
Yeah, farther south, farther east, that is where you're going to see the heaviest of it. Elkona, Alpena counties, kind of in our viewing area, that is where you're going to see the heaviest of the snow today with about 3 to 6 by tonight. A lot of us, just a trace to an inch, maybe 2 for some spots in the central lower. But again, that snow a little bit wet and heavy because we do have warmer temperatures. That could give you some slick roads, even if it's just a skiff of snow on those roads. Now, heading into tomorrow, quieter but colder. Upper teens to upper 20s. Friday, back into those 20s and 30s. But then we have teens and 20s this weekend, and it is looking like we get back to more winter weather next week and going into February because we don't have that mild Pacific air heading this way anymore.
All right, Michael, thank you, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, Northern Michigan. We'll see you back here tonight at 5. Until then, take care.